and as you mentioned earlier, Rizal would have, uh, I'd say, sided with the private enterprise because of his philosophy in uh, self-determination, I guess, as opposed to government intervention. A a Since it's already there, and I know that when Rizal was in Bagumbayan was shot, he turned around to face the squad, the firing squad. Um, my idea was, why not one, the main problem of an ordinary uh, Philippine history loving person, an ordinary mass, the masses, is that when they take pictures, it's there. And that's not how it should be, and that's not how it was historically. My idea was to turn instead of Rizal facing the Manila Bay, we turn Rizal uh, 360 uh, or 180, I should say. We
Yeah,
turn
180.
his facade 180. So, for the purposes of picture and everything, it's not in the way. We can do that. Obviously, it's going to cost money, but we can do that by having this private sector, or even the government, have a tax incentive for people who wish to pursue commercial development in the area, or business improvements in the area, that where they have a there's a tax, heritage tax, for instance, that would help hopefully pay one of the financiers of that project. What do you think of that, sir? As a middle ground.
Well, I think that's a brilliant idea. You just turned in the monument. Actually, there's already a technology, a technical know-how on how to do that, to go about with that. And I think that's a good middle way in moving forward. Um, if uh, if our solution, if our problem is with regard to taking pictures, so I think that would answer the solution. That will answer the problem rather. Uh, but I think if we go back again in history, the reason why Rizal faced uh, the
Firing squad.
Manila Bay.
Oh,
Yeah,
I
the
see.
Manila Bay. No, the I mean the statue. The statue
Yes,
was actually facing the Manila Bay,
that's correct.
uh, because across that national monument would have been the national capital. But maybe a reminder to our future leaders the price of the liberty that our people now enjoy is the blood of Rizal. But I think, considering that because that monument to the Filipino people was never built, then that maybe that's a very good solution. Uh, why not? Let's turn it around. It's actually a more historic. It's actually a more historically correct depiction of Rizal, and I think the people would I think the people would enjoy more the Rizal Park because if you have been to those who are watching who are not familiar of the park, the Rizal Monument is actually in the easternmost. If you're looking if you're looking the map from the Manila Hotel, it's actually in the east part, uh, just right beside Rojas Boulevard or the former Dewey Boulevard. So the people do not actually enter anymore the Luneta Park or the Rizal National Park proper uh, in order to take pictures. They just stay in the not even a tenth portion of the park. So I think maybe ecologically wise, it would be better if we turn the monument 180 degrees, and then people would start flocking through the park, just like in China, in Tiananmen. But the Tiananmen is not located in the near the front of the public space, but rather at the back, at the rear. So the people would get to enjoy the public space in between.
That's correct. Wow, this is really an interesting talk, and it's nice to be able to pick your brains about
Thank you, sir.
pseudo, a legal or pseudo legal and practical approaches to, especially this one of the landmark decisions that the Knights of Rizal was involved in, because they were this they were the they were the
Stationary.
other party
Yeah.
in this.
And but I would commend you, sir, because Oliver Wendell Holmes said that the rule of law is actually experience, rather. So your ideas are actually not pseudo legal, but actually they are born of experience. And I think if most of our lawmakers have that brilliant and a more actually very brilliant ideas, then we would have a better country rather than where we are right now.
Well,
So
thank you so much. Now, sir, in the Knights of Rizal, there are many personalities that are contemporary and the past. Is there any Knights of Rizal that you look up to?
well, uh, my most I mean my favorite Knight of Rizal is actually Manuel Quezon. That's why I've been always referring him in throughout this interview, because as you all know, Manuel Quezon is the father of Philippine independence, and all all of his life he dedicated himself into actually operationalizing Rizal's ideals so that we can have an independent country. Because remember, at that time, the Americans were trying to propagate that we would be better off under American rule. But Quezon professed his, he didn't explicitly say that I am a Rizalist, I love Rizal, but through his actions, through his steadfast devotion, and his resolute mind, a resolute conviction that we should have an independent country. Uh, that's how he showed his faith in Rizal. And I think that attitude, that mindset remains relevant until today. If we have leaders, if we have young people, if we have knights, fellow knights of Rizal, who are actually like Quezon in their own countries, because I'm aware that, of course, our brotherhood is not only for Filipinos, but for all peoples who share the ideals of Rizal. If we all have that mindset of actually operationalizing Rizal's ideals, Rizal's commitment to liberty, and his faith in his fellow humankind, that there is no man in the world that is inferior to another, then we can have a better world, a world where our liberties are guaranteed, a world where there is no fake news, and a world uh, that safeguards the rights of his fellow man. And in that world, there will be no need for in that world there will be no room for far right, far left, communists, fascists, and other organizations. In that world, we will have a world where people are are flourishing. They can actually aspire, dream the very best version of themselves, and then they can actually actualize that. It's like the American dream, but actually I would call it the Rizal dream come true.
So, wanted to ask you, in Rizal was never a lawyer, but he's a physician by trade, by training, That did not stop him from writing history. That did not stop him from writing poetry. That did not stop him from being a sculptor, expressing his thoughts in beauty and art. If you were not a lawyer, what would you have been and why?
Well, if I was not a lawyer, I would have been a perhaps a doctor, or as a or even a military officer. Uh, first and foremost, why a doctor? Because I always believe in public service, in trying to help people, and that's the reason why I entered the legal profession. Because uh, I don't want I don't want to be uh, not to sound anti-system, but I don't want to be part of the capitalist framework. I'm not that I'm socialist. I'm not a socialist, but I don't want to get rich. Maybe that's the better term. I don't want to get richer and richer, but I want to dedicate myself to public service. And I think being a doctor is actually also being a public servant. Now, why a military officer? Because um, still using the same philosophy, it's actually public service, and at the same time you defend the independence and the liberty of our country. And that's why that's why actually I am part of Panday chapter of the Knights of Rizal, and Panday chapter is composed of military officers. We usually hold our stated meetings uh, in Camp Aguinaldo. And so most of our members are military officers, statesmen, politicians. So that's actually a very, for me, I'm very fortunate enough that I'm part of a chapter that shares my understanding of what life is, and that is by being of public service, or being of service to others.
Now, your Panday chapter, sir, seems like membership is very professional in nature. Should this stop an ordinary person, say a tricycle driver, who wants to express their love of country and nationalism? What would you say to a ordinary person who's being uh, very uh, unmotivated because they see all the big names, the big profession in as members of the Knights? What would you say to an ordinary individual
Well,
and in
um,
welcoming him to the Knights of Rizal?
my first actually, rather than having a skit, my my introduction will be, how do you know Rizal? And I think most, if not a lot of our Filipino fellow Filipino countrymen would view Rizal in his 1 peso, in the 1 peso, or in the national monument in Luneta. And I would invite that person to come and to join us. Uh, and the Knights of Rizal, more than anything, is a brotherhood. It's a brotherhood of men. Uh, and that is where we start to inculcate the virtues of Rizal. And that's how, because you cannot engage an ordinary person in the level of trying to, like a priest or a pastor, trying to preach Rizal to that person, because he will never understand Rizal if we approach in that way. So we approach an ordinary Filipino like a friend. And that's how actually Rizal approached other the other heroes of his age. Uh, he, he befriended them. He became their kainuman, like that. But we don't stop in that level. And if if you can recall, sir, back during the dubbing ceremony, uh, the lights were closed, and there were, and not to disclose so much, there's a light, single light, and we have to, and that represents the light in the midst of darkness that surrounded the world, not only during Rizal's time, but I think even until now. So that's how you approach a person. It's like you give light to that person. You show to him kindness, you show to him brotherhood, and that you treat him as an equal, co-equal, regardless of your profession, your rank, your age. That's how my brothers in my own chapter treated me. I'm actually the youngest in my chapter, and yet they treat me as their brothers, and I will always be grateful to that. I entered the Knights of Rizal not as a lawyer. I was actually a law student at that time. So, but the respect is there. The faith, their faith in me as a fellow brother was there. So that impelled me, or that actually motivated me to become a more active member of my chapter. And eventually, I started teach conducting lecture series, and then eventually I was uh, elevated as a night officer of Rizal. So your profession, your stature in life, your financial condition is not a hindrance in becoming a member of the Knights of Rizal.
Thank you, sir. Again, we are reaching the latter part of our interview, and I really appreciate your valuable time. Uh, and I always ask this to the people I interview. As you know, the this year we will have a Supreme Council election, and we are going to elect a new set of Supreme Council uh, members. If you had the chance to talk to the Supreme Council, the knight who's going to head this organization in the next 2 years, and this is your only opportunity to have a heart-to-heart talk with the new Supreme Commander, what would you say to him?
Well, I would say to him that, sir, now's the time more than ever to engage and tap the youth. We all know that elections are just around the corner in the country. The whole world is actually tearing itself apart. The old order that we have been so accustomed to since 1945, since the end of the war, is actually being shaken at its foundation. So I would urge you, sir, as a fellow brother knight, that we start the process of having more active youth members of the Knights of Rizal, so that the organization would always be, although it's always relevant, it would it would be more attuned to the times, and at the same time be it would encourage others to share to share in Rizal's vision of the country. And that will begin if we allow more young people to take more active roles and position, not only in the rank and file or in the ordinary membership of the Knights of Rizal, but even perhaps in the officer levels of the organization. And maybe as a final note to this, during the nascent years of the Knights of Rizal, all, if not most of the members, if most, if not all of the members of the Knights of Rizal were young people. And Quezon as a young man started as I think an officer of Rizal. And so my proposal is we should return to that framework. We should return to that framework where young people hold more important positions in the organization. and in that way we keep the organization relevant to the 21st century, and at the same time we we contribute to the country's well-being, especially that we have an election next year. So we have a more engaged citizenry, a more informed citizenry, civic and a more civic-minded citizenry. So that's what would I would say to the Supreme Commander.
Thank you so much, sir. At this point in time, I would like to invite you to share your last words, message to the I call it the KOR universe, because as you know, the KOR has auxiliary organizations, and it's not only in the Philippines. There's it's worldwide. So I would like to ask you to give your final words and message to all those who are listening and viewing this episode.
First of all, brothers, I would like to, and to the KOR universe rather, I would like to thank you for actually listening to this interview. It's actually a very enriching experience to me, and I hope that I have also enriched your yourselves during this time. My only hope and my only hope for you is that even during this time of pandemic, let us remain as light bearers to others. Let us continue to share Rizal's works, ideas, his life, not only through our words, not only through lectures, not that they are not important, but they are also important. But most importantly, in our own activities, we are in the Knights of Rizal. We are lawyers, doctors, students of all profession, actually. So, uh, if we actually imbibe Rizal in our own profession, then we will have a better country, a better world. So I hope and I do pray that you remain safe during these times, and I look forward to hopefully meet you someday, all of you. So with that, I would like to end my message.